Hi everyone, this is Karina Dean, and I'm back again with another video for your Saturn Return Survival Kit series. Last week I discussed about finding your own place of isolation. This is very difficult even for me because I live in New York City and there are people everywhere. But I do find that it's important to have your own place of isolation during your Saturn return, despite the many people that are around. You have to still commit to this time if you want to make the best of it. So this week, I would like to discuss with you shadow work. This is a term used very loosely amongst spiritual teachers. And I think that there are various ways in which you can practice shadow work. So I would like to give you a brief introduction into what it is and what I understand it to be and how I have used it in my process, and then give you some options on how you can truly manifest and use the practices of shadow work to help you gain wisdom into yourself. So in understanding the body, we have many levels to the body. We have the chakra systems, we have the emotional body, we have the light body, we have the dark body. And in understanding lightness and darkness, a lot of people in the spiritual community really just focus on the light and focus on the positive. But in order to have true positivity and lightness, you do need to understand your shadow self. Your shadow self is the underneath. It is the part of you that no one else sees, maybe not even you. And this part informs a lot of your insecurities. This is the part that has been developed over time as you have understood yourself to survive in this world. And the shadow self is also a little bit of what you have come into the world with, maybe karma that is unfinished. So when we are looking at the shadow body, and when we're looking at lightness and darkness, what we really have to understand is that in order to actually achieve true positivity and lightness, we have to completely understand our shadow self and our shadow body. With that being said, shadow work is tricky. A lot of people would consider shadow work to be something that you can't control. However, during a Saturn return, you are more than likely to be triggered, so you still are not in control, but because you have a Saturn return transit, it's a great time to put shadow work practice into place and to have it as a tool for you in which you can even expedite your maturation, and you can truly be able to be wiser as you become more self-observant. Your shadow self is covered by uncomfortable, vulnerable feelings, by anger usually, or high levels of depression. And if you are unaware of these emotions, you'll usually choose to lash out at others. So you will choose to blame others for the wrong that they have committed, or you will choose to see the world as coming in on you because you're only understanding these primary emotional states. In order to really understand your emotions, you will have to dig a little bit deeper underneath them and look for the origins of where they came from. And this search is shadow work. The search in looking deep under your primary emotions to understand the origins of where they came from. Now, what that also means is that as a child in your cognitive years, when you are in development, so the personality actually of a child, of a person, is developed by age 6. So the personality of who you are is basically formed at a very young age, And up until, you were born, and up until age 6, you are a sponge to the world around you. This is when you do learn how to shape your personality, and this is sort of shaped out of survival. So when you reach your adulthood, the adulthood is very much so the time where you are searching for who you want to be and what you want to manifest in the world and what you want to leave behind as a legacy. Adulthood is also about healing the wounds from childhood. Whatever it is in that development that was either under some sort of trauma or had to find a way to grow some thick skin or find a way to survive, this is the development also of that shadow self, and this is what you are looking to heal in your adulthood. So the Saturn return is a great time to learn about the tools of shadow work, because during this time you are highly triggered by emotional memories from your precognitive years of development, from when you're born to your shaping of the personality and throughout your childhood. Being self-aware as much as possible and being able to catch the opportunities that you have in your everyday life to begin your shadow work. So what does that mean? What does that mean? That means that it's essential for you to be aware, to be self-aware of your emotional states when you are triggered. Be aware of the specifics of the person or the things that are being said to you, the triggers themselves, like the actions. Also, be aware of everything around that moment in time that had made you extremely angry or extremely depressed. And shadow work begins with that awareness. It begins with understanding that you are trying to understand yourself and you're not looking for too much of anyone outside of you to help you. This is essential, and I'll get to that in a moment. So this is what I believe is really quite authentic shadow work, is because you can't control your triggers, so that when they do come up, and Saturn return, especially to Scorpio, is a high potent time for you to have these experiences. When you are self-aware and you are remembering the moment and remembering what it is that made you in that present moment get you upset, you become separate a little bit from your thoughts and your feelings, and you start to embrace the fact that there is more to this story than just this person making you severely upset, or this situation making you severely upset or making you highly depressed. What you're trying to do is dig into the multi-layers of the forming of these emotions. So you're looking to go deeper than just I'm angry. You're looking to go deeper than just I'm depressed. So you can start to write. You can use art, I believe, for shadow work in order to understand what those emotions may feel. The best exercise for getting down to the root of it without writing or creativity is meditation. And you can choose these meditation techniques in which you ask yourself, when was the first time that I felt this? And when you ask yourself that, I recommend to do this, with not too many people around, again, in your own place. So you ask yourself, when was the first time that I felt this emotion? And you can ask it out loud, you can ask it to yourself, you can write it down. this is really essential. Saturn in Scorpio has a lot to do with intuition, and this is about tapping into that flash, that first thought, that first flash of memory that comes to you. What you might also find are the full story, in which you might remember the whole thing. Now, this is when I recommend to write it down, or just to say to yourself, describe the moment and what happened. This is when you can find the multi-layers of emotions. So let's say you are severely upset because, somebody did not meet you on time when they were supposed to, and it has triggered you to be wildly upset. You might go back into your cave and then ask yourself, or meditate, when was the first time that I felt so upset? And there might be a flash of a memory of when you were a little kid and your father said he would pick you up from, father or your mother, they said they would pick you up from school and they were late, like they didn't come, and you were panicked as a little kid. And so you learned how to survive in that moment as a child, to deal with somebody who's late, but now you're an adult and it comes up and it triggers you, and you still don't really understand why. So what I'm talking about here in that example is understanding your core beliefs, and that is what happens in those childhood years as you develop and survive your circumstances, is that you come up with core beliefs. So that example of my parents didn't show up on time, and I just had to, deal with it, you might have felt some core beliefs like, I have to, take care of myself because no one else really cares, not even my parents. It can be really anything, but I don't want to give you a full list, and I even am worried about giving you an example because it really needs to be authentic to your life. But these are the inner workings and the first steps to understanding shadow work and to beginning that process. And again, I do feel like Saturn in Scorpio is giving you lessons of intuition. So using shadow work will be very helpful in being able to access these other dimensions of yourself and other levels of your emotional body, in which you can come up with other descriptions of your emotions. Like, instead of just feeling angry or feeling depressed, you feel abandoned. This is abandonment is, I think, a very big thing that is occurs within children, honestly. Or you just feel lost, or you feel small. These are very different. We don't always have like the best emotions to cover all of the emotional body. We have words that label our different emotions: happy, sad, depressed, anger, but allow yourself to have the freedom to use other words, to use other states of being that help you to comprehend where these triggers are coming from and what those core beliefs are, and having the opportunity to change those core beliefs, in which you can now that you're aware of them, you can now address them, and that can happen on your own terms as well. And I'm very big on saying on your own terms because not everything works for everybody, but I'm just giving you the skeleton of what it means so that you can go and shape it to your own liking and to what works for you. And that really is the best thing. We need to learn how to be our own spiritual teachers and gurus, and that's what shadow work really is about. Shadow work is about, instead of relying on something outside of you to heal you, to find it from within. And shadow work is about going deep into the darkness, deep into the shadow self, that part of you that is not seen but is highly triggered, especially during this time, and that can help to inform you so that now you can be your own alchemist and change those beliefs. You can be your own alchemist and change those emotions. Or you can use those sometimes you can't change the emotion, I believe. Sometimes you will always feel different states of emotion, but then you can be the alchemist to apply it and channel it in a different way in your life. Not always always easy to be self-aware when you are triggered, but the more that you can be, the easier it will be to access the lower levels of yourself and of your shadow self in your body. So thank you again. This is Karina Dean, and I'm signing off. Everyone, I just wanted to add that during that videotaping, I was being triggered because of all the activity going on, and it's in the morning, and I would think that there would be less people around. And in my childhood, I had a lot of difficulty in having my own space and my own time. My house was not jam-packed with a lot of people, but I didn't really have that space to call my own. And then growing up in New York, it's always been busy. There's always people. So that is a trigger for me. And now I can go deeper into my past, like I just said, and share with you that I already know where that comes from. So that's just like my own personal reflection off of what I just said. Once you put it into practice, you can access the origins of your frustration faster and faster, and I find that to be true. So that's where, when I say that you can, the emotions may not ever go away, the triggers may not ever go away, the intensity of them subsides, but what you're able to do is to tap deeper into the origins, and that is the key to mastery. Okay, thanks.